Marcus Rodriguez had always prided himself on being exceptionally ordinary. At 42, he was the kind of guy who fixed broken toilets without complaint, knew exactly how much bleach to use on different alien biowaste, and owned exactly one t-shirt that wasn't work-issued. That shirt, currently getting him more attention than he'd ever wanted, read "I am the weapon" in bold black letters across his chest. His nephew had given it to him as a gag gift for his birthday, laughing about how Uncle Marcus was about as threatening as a soggy pretzel. Marcus had thought it was hilarious too, past tense being the operative phrase here, because apparently the Galactic Council's sense of humor was even worse than their prison food. "So let me understand this correctly," wheezed Zephyr the Magnificent, a 7-foot-tall purple warrior from the Klaxon Empire who looked like a peacock had a fight with a suit of armor and lost spectacularly. "You, a human janitor, were arrested for illegal trespassing because you were trying to fix a toilet on a luxury cruise ship." "The toilet was broken," Marcus said reasonably, sitting on the metal bench in their shared cell on detention level 7. "I heard water running. Water running means waste of resources. Waste of resources means higher maintenance costs. Higher maintenance costs mean someone's having a bad day. And this shirt," continued Zephyr, gesturing with one of his 4 arms, "is supposed to be what, intimidating?" Grunk, their third cellmate who looked like someone had taught a boulder how to wear pants, offered his contribution to the conversation, Grunk confused. "That made 3 of them." Marcus had been trying to fix a malfunctioning waste disposal system on the cruise ship Eternal Bliss when security found him elbow-deep in alien plumbing. Apparently, his maintenance badge from Earth didn't translate to authorized to prevent catastrophic sewage backup. In galactic standard. "Humans," Zephyr chuckled, his voice making sounds like a kazoo orchestra warming up. "The galaxy's cleanup crew thinks he's a warrior. This is rich. You people can barely handle your own planet's waste management, let alone pose a threat to civilized species." "Hey now," Marcus said, genuinely offended. "Our waste management is top-notch. You should see the sewage treatment facilities in Cleveland. Works of art, really." Grunk nodded approvingly. Grunk liked clean. The detention center was a marvel of bureaucratic efficiency, which is to say it was designed by committee and functioned about as well as a chocolate teapot. Marcus had been here 3 days, sharing space with career criminals who found his presence endlessly amusing. Every time a guard walked by, Zephyr would point at Marcus's shirt and dissolve into fits of laughter that sounded like someone torturing a bagpipe. "Tell me again about human combat prowess," Zephyr said, wiping tears from his primary eyes. "Do you throw cleaning supplies at your enemies? Challenge them to scrub-offs?" Marcus shrugged. "Never really thought about it. Most problems I encounter involve clogged pipes or burnt-out light fixtures. Haven't had to fight anything more dangerous than a particularly stubborn grease trap in years." This sent Zephyr into fresh paroxysms of mirth. Even Grunk managed what might have been a chuckle, though it sounded more like grinding concrete. The irony wasn't lost on Marcus that he'd spent the last decade specifically avoiding exactly this kind of attention. He'd chosen janitorial work precisely because it was peaceful, predictable, and nobody expected him to be anything other than the guy who showed up, fixed things, and left without causing any interdimensional incidents. His shirt, now the source of so much alien amusement, had seemed harmless enough when he'd packed for what was supposed to be a simple maintenance job. Just goes to show that the universe had a sense of humor after all, and it was apparently just as twisted as his nephew's. Judge Zylara had 6 eyes, which meant she could glare at 3 defendants simultaneously while still keeping an eye on the court reporter and checking her watch. This made her particularly efficient at dispensing what the Galactic Council generously called justice and everyone else called bureaucratic revenge with a legal stamp. "Marcus Rodriguez," she intoned in a voice that suggested she'd rather be literally anywhere else you stand accused of unauthorized maintenance, criminal helpfulness, and aggravated toilet repair in the 1st degree. "Your Honor," Marcus began, "I really don't think aggravated toilet repair is a thing." "It is now," Judge Silara replied without missing a beat. The Eternal Bliss's waste management system hasn't worked properly since you fixed it. It now plays smooth jazz and occasionally compliments passengers on their dietary choices. Marcus couldn't help but smile a little. Well, positive reinforcement is important for healthy bathroom habits. Before the judge could respond to this breach of courtroom decorum, the main doors burst open with the kind of dramatic flair that suggested someone had been practicing the entrance in a mirror. Commander Blitz of the Galactic Enforcement Division strode in, looking like an action figure that had been designed by someone who thought subtlety was a type of seasoning. Your Honor, I apologize for the interruption, but we have a situation. Judge Zalara's expression suggested that interruptions ranked somewhere below moldy cheese and tax audits in her personal hierarchy of pleasant experiences. Commander, unless the universe is ending, I'm in the middle of sentencing. It might be, Your Honor. We have a code red situation on Torment Prime. The courtroom went dead silent. Torment Prime was the galaxy's maximum security prison, the kind of place they sent people who made dictators look like amateur troublemakers. If something was wrong there, it was the kind of wrong that made grown aliens check under their beds at night. Prison break? Judge Silara asked, her casual tone not quite hiding the fact that 3 of her eyes were now focused entirely on Commander Blitz. The worst kind. Vex the Destroyer and his crew have taken hostages. They're holed up in the arena complex and they're making demands. Vex the Destroyer. Marcus had heard that name even on Earth. The guy had conquered 14 star systems before breakfast and used the 15th as a napkin. He was the kind of villain who had theme songs written about him, and not the fun kind. What do they want? The judge asked. Commander Blitz looked uncomfortable, which was saying something for a guy who regularly negotiated with genocidal warlords. They want single combat. Winner takes all, hostages go free if their champion loses. And their champion? This was where Commander Blitz looked directly at Marcus, and Marcus felt the universe's sense of humor kick him squarely in the cosmic funny bone. They specifically requested the weapon shirt human. The courtroom erupted. Zephyr's laughter could probably be heard from orbit. Grunk just said, Grunk surprised. Judge Silara stared at Marcus like he'd just claimed to be the secret emperor of reality. They want him? She asked, pointing one tentacle at Marcus, who was beginning to understand how a deer felt when it met headlights for the first time. Apparently they saw the security footage from his arrest. The shirt made quite an impression. Marcus stood up slowly. Excuse me, but I think there's been a misunderstanding. This shirt is a joke, a gag gift. I'm literally a janitor. I fix toilets for a living. That's what makes it so perfect, Commander Blitz said with the kind of smile that suggested he'd already written Marcus's obituary. They think it's hilarious. Want to make an example out of human arrogance by crushing our weapon in front of the galaxy. But I'm not actually a weapon, Marcus protested. The shirt says otherwise, Judge Silara pointed out with the kind of logic that made perfect sense in courtrooms and nowhere else in the civilized universe. Zephyr was still laughing. Oh, this is beautiful. They're going to feed the janitor to the galaxy's most dangerous criminal because of a t-shirt. The irony is so thick you could cut it with a plasma sword. I volunteered to go instead, Zephyr announced, standing up and striking what he probably thought was a heroic pose. I have 17 combat medals and a certificate in advanced alien destruction. Surely I'm more qualified than a human toilet fixer. Grunk 02 added their rock-like companion. Grunk hit things good. But Commander Blitz shook his head. They were very specific. They want the human with the weapon shirt. No substitutions, no alternatives. If we don't deliver him within 24 hours, they start executing hostages. Marcus sat back down heavily. Somehow his nephew's stupid joke gift had just made him the galaxy's most reluctant champion. The universe's sense of humor, he decided, was definitely broken and probably needed professional repair. Unfortunately, he was pretty sure this was one problem that couldn't be fixed with the right wrench and some elbow grease. The transport ship Inevitable Regret was apparently named by someone with either a fantastic sense of irony or serious psychological issues. Marcus was betting on both as he sat in the passenger compartment, watching stars streak by through the viewport while contemplating the various ways his life had gone completely sideways. "Stop fidgeting," Captain Vera Morrison said without looking up from her tactical manual. She was the kind of military officer who looked like she'd been carved from granite and disappointment, with the personality to match. "You're making me nervous, and I don't get nervous." "Sorry," Marcus said, realizing he'd been unconsciously checking the emergency exits, calculating sight lines, and mentally cataloging everything in the compartment that could be weaponized. Old habits. "Mom. Just not used to being the center of galactic attention." "Yeah, well, get used to it. In about 6 hours you're going to be the most watched human in the galaxy. No pressure." Pip, the ship's communications officer, looked like someone had crossed a ferret with a television antenna and given the result an excessive enthusiasm for everything. He bounced in his seat as he spoke. "Ooh, Mr. Rodriguez, can I ask you about human weapon techniques? I'm writing a paper for xenobiology class about primitive combat methods." "Primitive?" Marcus raised an eyebrow. "Well, you know, pre-industrial. Sticks, stones, harsh language. That sort of thing." Dr. Vance, the ship's medic, looked up from his medical scanner with the expression of someone who'd already given up hope. "I've been running projections on your survival chances, Mr. Rodriguez. The numbers are not encouraging." "How not encouraging?" "Well, let's just say I've started preparing your death certificate. It's very tasteful. I used the good letterhead." Marcus leaned back in his seat and tried to look more relaxed than he felt. "You know, everyone keeps assuming I'm going to die horribly. Has anyone considered that maybe, just maybe, there's more to this situation than meets the eye?" Captain Morrison finally looked up from her manual. "Such as?" "Me. Such as the fact that maybe I'm not quite as helpless as everyone thinks." "You're a janitor," she pointed out. "I'm a sanitation engineer," Marcus corrected. "There's a difference." "Is there?" "Mayor." Marcus was quiet for a moment, watching the stars. Then he said, "Tell me, Captain, what do you know about my service record?" "Your service record?" Morrison frowned. "According to your file, you were dishonorably discharged from Earth's Special Forces after some kind of classified incident. Details are sealed above my clearance level." "Interesting. And what does my employment history show?" 15 years of janitorial work. Stellar reviews, no complaints, several commendations for innovation in waste management. And it doesn't strike anyone as odd that someone with Special Forces training ended up fixing toilets? Dr. Vance looked up from his death certificate. "Career change?" "More like career necessity," Marcus said quietly. "Sometimes when you're too good at something, people start asking you to do things you'd rather not do. Sometimes the best way to avoid those requests is to become someone nobody would ever think to ask." Pip's antenna twitched with excitement. "Ooh, are you saying you're secretly dangerous?" "I'm saying I'm very good at fixing problems. All kinds of problems." Captain Morrison closed her tactical manual and gave Marcus her full attention. "What kind of classified incident gets someone with your apparent skills reassigned to toilet duty?" Marcus smiled, and for just a moment, but Captain Morrison caught a glimpse of something in his eyes that made her understand why Earth's Special Forces might have wanted to keep this particular human very quiet and very far away from anything important. Let's just say it involved creative problem-solving that was technically within regulations, but made some very important people very uncomfortable about the implications. "What kind of implications?" Dr. Vance asked, his death certificate temporarily forgotten. the kind that made them realize that if you give someone like me a mop and a maintenance badge, I could probably take over a small space station using nothing but cleaning supplies and a thorough understanding of life support systems. The compartment went very quiet. "The shirt," Captain Morrison said slowly, "isn't a joke, is it?" Marcus looked down at the bold letters across his chest. "My nephew gave it to me because he thought it was funny. Turns out family sometimes knows you better than you know yourself." "So you really are dangerous?" "Captain, I spent 15 years learning how to turn anything into a weapon and any environment into a tactical advantage. Then I spent the next 15 years learning how to not think that way. Guess which skill set is harder to unlearn?" Pip was taking notes frantically. "This is the best research ever." Dr. Vance crumpled up his death certificate. "I'm going to need new letterhead." Captain Morrison leaned back in her chair and smiled for the first time since Marcus had met her. "Well, Mr. Rodriguez, this just got interesting." "Captain," Marcus said, watching the stars, "I really hope you're wrong about that." The arena on Torment Prime looked like someone had designed a gladiatorial combat zone using the architectural principles of maximum intimidation and probable death. Thousands of the galaxy's worst criminals filled the stands, cheering and placing bets on how quickly the human janitor would be reduced to component atoms. Marcus stood at the arena's edge, still wearing his "I am the weapon" t-shirt and carrying the only equipment he'd requested, a standard-issue maintenance mop from the ship's supply closet. The crowd's laughter was loud enough to register on seismic equipment. "Ladies, gentlemen, and assorted criminal entities," boomed the announcer's voice over the arena's sound system, "welcome to what will undoubtedly be the shortest championship fight in galactic history. In the red corner, weighing in at approximately 1 ton of death, standing 12 feet tall and armed with enough weaponry to level a small moon, we have the undisputed champion of violent mayhem, Vex the Destroyer." The crowd roared as Vex emerged from the opposite tunnel. He looked like someone had crossed a praying mantis with a tank and given the result serious anger management issues. Plasma cannons were built into his arms, his exoskeleton gleamed with embedded armor plating, and his eyes glowed with the kind of malevolent intelligence that suggested he didn't just enjoy causing pain, he'd written academic papers on the subject. And in the blue corner, the announcer continued, his voice dripping with barely contained mirth, weighing in at 180 pounds of pure cleaning power. Armed with a mop and apparently a sense of humor, we have the human who thinks he's a weapon, Marcus Rodriguez. The laughter was deafening. Even some of the hostages, tied up in the viewing boxes, looked like they were trying not to smile. Marcus couldn't blame them. If he were watching this from the outside, he'd probably find it hilarious too. Vex the Destroyer stalked to the center of the arena, his movements precise and predatory. When he spoke, his voice carried the authority of someone accustomed to being the most dangerous thing in any room. "Human," Vex said, his vocal cords producing sounds like grinding metal, "your species amuses me. You are soft, weak, and pathetically optimistic. You have somehow convinced yourselves that you matter in this galaxy, when in reality you are nothing more than the universe's janitors." "Actually," Marcus said conversationally, dipping his mop in a bucket of cleaning solution he'd brought with him, "I prefer the term sanitation engineer." This got another roar of laughter from the crowd. Vex's eyes glowed brighter. "You stand before me with a cleaning implement and clothing that proclaims you a weapon. This is either supreme confidence or complete insanity." "Por qué no los dos?" Marcus replied, beginning to mop the arena floor in a slow, methodical pattern. "What are you doing?" Vex demanded, clearly not having expected his opponent to start doing housework. "Cleaning," Marcus said, continuing his work. "This floor is absolutely filthy. Do you know how many different alien biofluids have been spilled on this surface? It's a biohazard nightmare." The crowd's laughter began to fade as they watched the human ignore the galaxy's most dangerous criminal in favor of basic maintenance. Vex looked around uncertainly, clearly not having prepared for this particular psychological warfare tactic. "I am going to tear you apart," Vex roared, raising his plasma cannons. "Okay," Marcus said agreeably, wringing out his mop. "But could you wait just a minute? I'm almost done with this section and I hate leaving a job half-finished." This was apparently too much for Vex's ego to handle. He charged forward with the kind of devastating force that had conquered star systems, his plasma cannons charging with deadly energy, and promptly slipped spectacularly on the freshly mopped floor. Vex went down like a controlled demolition, his momentum carrying him into the arena wall with a crash that shook the entire structure. His plasma cannons discharged harmlessly into the ceiling, bringing down a shower of debris that Marcus casually sidestepped. "Wet floor," Marcus said mildly, pulling a small yellow sign from his maintenance kit and setting it up. "Should have posted a warning. Safety first, you know." The arena had gone completely silent. 30,000 of the galaxy's most dangerous criminals were staring at a human janitor who had just defeated their champion with basic floor care. Vex struggled to his feet, his exoskeleton now sporting several impressive dents and his dignity in roughly the same condition. His eyes blazed with murderous fury. "Lucky," he snarled. "Probably," Marcus agreed, moving on to dust the arena's light fixtures. "Though in my experience, luck tends to favor proper preparation and attention to detail." This time, when Vex attacked, Marcus was ready for him. What followed was the most unconventional fight in the history of galactic combat sports, assuming you could call it a fight when one participant was clearly treating it as a very thorough cleaning session. Marcus moved through the arena with the easy efficiency of someone who'd spent decades maintaining complex systems under adverse conditions. Every action served double duty, cleaning the facility while somehow staying exactly one step ahead of Vex's increasingly frustrated attacks. You see, Marcus explained conversationally while polishing a section of arena wall that Vex had just missed him with a plasma blast. "Most people think being a weapon means carrying big guns and making lots of noise. But the thing about weapons is that the most effective ones are the ones nobody sees coming." He ducked under another plasma cannon burst and continued his work, using his polishing cloth to redirect the next shot into one of the arena's sound system speakers. The feedback screech that resulted sent half the crowd covering their audio receptors. "My military specialty," Marcus continued, emptying a trash receptacle that happened to contain several discarded weapons from previous fights, was something they called environmental combat engineering, a fancy name for learning how to turn everyday objects and situations into tactical advantages. He demonstrated by using the trash can lid as a shield, deflecting Vex's next attack into the arena's atmospheric control system. The sudden change in air pressure sent several loose objects flying, including a decorative banner that wrapped around Vex's head at exactly the wrong moment. "The problem with conventional weapons," Marcus said, helping Vex untangle himself with the kind of professional courtesy that somehow made the gesture deeply insulting, "is that people expect them. They prepare for guns, explosives, energy weapons. Nobody prepares for weaponized maintenance." Vex was getting frustrated now, his attacks becoming wilder and less controlled. Marcus continued his cleaning routine, somehow always managing to be somewhere else when the plasma blasts arrived. "Take this mop, for example," Marcus said, demonstrating with a move that used the handle to redirect another attack into the arena's gravity control panel. The sudden shift in gravitational orientation sent Vex tumbling through the air, while Marcus, who had apparently anticipated this, was holding onto a conveniently placed maintenance rail. Standard maintenance equipment. 43 inches long, polymer handle, synthetic cleaning fibers. Completely harmless, right? The crowd was beginning to realize they weren't watching incompetence or luck. They were watching a masterclass in applied physics and tactical thinking disguised as janitorial work. But in the right hands, Marcus continued, using the mop handle to trigger the arena's fire suppression system. It becomes a lever, a staff, a probe, a deflection tool, And occasionally, he added, wrapping the mop strings around one of Vex's weapon arms with a movement so quick it looked accidental, a restraint system. Vex found himself tied up in synthetic cleaning fibers, his own momentum having been used against him. The harder he struggled, the more tangled he became. "The thing about being a weapon," Marcus said, settling into a lecture tone that suggested he'd given this explanation before, "isn't about the equipment you carry. It's about understanding how everything around you works and being creative about using those systems in ways their designers never intended." He gestured around the arena. "Take this place, entertainment venue, right? But look closer. Atmospheric controls, gravity generators, sound systems, waste management, life support. Every system can be turned into a weapon if you understand the principles behind it." The crowd was silent now, watching with the kind of fascination normally reserved for natural disasters or traffic accidents. "My shirt wasn't a joke," Marcus said, looking directly at Vex, who had stopped struggling and was staring at him with something approaching respect. "It was a warning label. The problem is, most people don't read the fine print." He walked over to his cleaning supply kit and pulled out an industrial-strength cleaning solution. "Now, I'm betting that fancy exoskeleton of yours has some kind of chemical coating for protection, right? Probably designed to resist most known toxins and corrosives?" Vex's eyes widened as Marcus held up the bottle. "But I'm also betting." "Sheng." Marcus continued with a smile that was somehow scarier than any threat. "That nobody thought to test it against Earth-standard bathroom cleaning products. Amazing what we have to develop when you're dealing with the kind of biological diversity that comes from a planet where everything is trying to kill everything else." He didn't need to use it. Vex's surrender was immediate and absolute. The journey back to Galactic Council Station was considerably quieter than the trip out. Word of Marcus's victory had spread faster than gossip at a family reunion, and suddenly everyone wanted to know about the human janitor who had defeated the galaxy's most feared criminal using nothing but cleaning supplies and a thorough understanding of building maintenance. "So Captain Morrison said, as she filed her mission report, want to tell me what really happened back there? Because my sensors registered at least 17 different system failures during your fight, and somehow they all worked in your favor." Marcus shrugged, sipping coffee from a maintenance department mug. "Like I said, I'm good at fixing problems. Sometimes the best way to fix a problem is to break something else in exactly the right way." Dr. Vance had given up on death certificates entirely and was instead working on a research paper titled Reconsidering Human Threat Assessment Parameters. Pip was still taking notes, though his enthusiasm had been tempered by a healthy dose of respect bordering on terror. "Mr. Rodriguez," Pip said carefully, "hypothetically speaking, if you wanted to take over this ship, how would you do it?" "I wouldn't," Marcus replied without hesitation. "I'd just fix something important in a way that made everyone really grateful I was here." The communications panel chimed with an incoming message. Captain Morrison activated it, and Judge Silara's face appeared on the screen. "Mr. Rodriguez," the judge said, her tone considerably more respectful than it had been during his sentencing, "the Galactic Council has voted to expunge your criminal record and extend a formal apology for the misunderstanding. Additionally, we've received over 3,000 job offers for your services, including several from planetary governments and at least one from a major celebrity who wants you to organize their closets." "That's very flattering, Your Honor, but I'm going to have to decline." "All of them?" "All of them. I like my current job. It's peaceful, nobody shoots at me, and the worst thing I have to deal with is usually clogged pipes or burnt-out light bulbs." Judge Silara blinked several of her eyes in sequence. "You want to go back to being a janitor?" "Sanitation engineer," Marcus corrected. "And yes, the galaxy has enough warriors. What it needs is more people willing to clean up the messes." The judge processed this for a moment. "Very well. Your transport back to Earth has been arranged. And Mr. Rodriguez, Thank you. 3 weeks later, Marcus was back at his old job on Luna Station, mopping floors and fixing problems that didn't involve intergalactic incidents. His supervisor had given him a new uniform shirt to replace the one that had become galactically famous. This one, a gift from his fellow janitors who had followed the news coverage, read, "I clean up your messes," in the same bold font. He was training a new employee, a young Centaurian named Zip, who had specifically requested assignment to his crew after seeing the arena footage. "Remember," Marcus said, "demonstrating proper mop technique. It's not about the tools you use. It's about understanding that everything has a purpose, and with the right knowledge and creativity, everything can be more than what it appears to be." "Even kindness?" Zip asked, echoing something he'd heard in one of the interview broadcasts. Marcus smiled, handing him a spray bottle. "Especially kindness. It's the most powerful weapon in the universe, and the best part is, nobody ever sees it coming." In the background, a news report played on the station's public screens about humanity's application for full galactic citizenship being fast-tracked in light of recently demonstrated problem-solving capabilities and innovative conflict resolution methods. Marcus Rodriguez, sanitation engineer and occasional weapon, went back to work. After all, the universe was a messy place, and somebody had to keep it clean.